the dust had not settled. In the days following the explosive View interview, the media cyclone reached a fever pitch. Clips of Tom Cruise's walkout were played on a continuous loop, dissected by pundits, and mimed across the internet. The narrative was fractured. Was Cruise a principled artist standing against bigotry, or a thin-skinned celebrity unable to handle scrutiny? Joy Behar gave triumphant post-mortems on other talk shows, framing the incident as a victory for hard-hitting journalism. The court of public opinion was in session, but one key witness had yet to testify: Tom Cruise himself. He did not choose a traditional outlet. He did not sit down with a friendly journalist from an entertainment magazine. Instead, he bypassed the media gatekeepers entirely, releasing a professionally produced 30-minute video monologue directly to his social media channels. It was titled simply, "A Response." It was not an interview. It was a deposition. It was a State of the Union address from the fortress of his own conviction. The video opened not on a flashy set, but on Tom Cruise sitting alone on a simple stool in a vast, empty soundstage. He was dressed in a black sweater and jeans devoid of Hollywood glamour. The lighting was stark, his face etched with a gravity that was far removed from his usual exuberant public persona. He looked directly into the camera, his gaze unwavering, and began to speak. His voice was calm, measured, but carried the weight of someone who had spent days, perhaps a lifetime, considering these words. "I've spent the last week reflecting." He began, his hands resting on his knees. Not on the noise, not on the headlines, but on the core of what happened. Many of you saw a clip, a moment of high drama on a daytime talk show. But what you saw was the final act of a play that was written long before I walked onto that stage. You saw the explosion, but you didn't see the fuse being lit. Today, I want to talk about that fuse. I want to talk about the script I was expected to follow, and why I chose definitively to tear it up. He paused, allowing the silence to hang in the digital air. I went on The View to talk about a movie called Horizon Line. For me, this film is more than just a project. It's a testament to a kind of filmmaking I fear we are losing. It's about practical effects, real stunts, real locations. It's about the power of the human spirit to overcome, to persevere, to reach for something higher. The message of the film is hope. That was the conversation I came to have. That was the agreement. He leaned forward slightly, his intensity focusing. But from the moment I sat down, it was clear a different conversation was waiting for me. It was packaged, premeditated, and delivered with the kind of smug certainty that can only come from someone who believes they hold a monopoly on truth. Joy Behar did not come to discuss cinema. She came to conduct a heresy trial. Her opening gambit was not about the stunts, the story, or the characters. It was about language. She pointed to a line in the film, rejecting the toxic energy of the suppressives, and declared it not a writer's dialogue, but a secret code. She called it the language of my faith, Scientology. She accused me of ideological smuggling. Think about that term for a moment. It implies a covert operation. It suggests I am a stealth evangelist, using the silver screen to trick unsuspecting audiences into swallowing a doctrine. This is not criticism. This is conspiracy theory. Cruise's voice remained steady, but a fire ignited in his eyes. Let's be clear. The themes in Horizon Line, overcoming obstacles, believing in oneself, fighting against oppressive forces, are the bedrock of storytelling. They are in the Odyssey, in the Bible, in every hero's journey ever told. To claim that these universal archetypes are the exclusive intellectual property of one religion is not just absurd. It's a profound insult to every culture and faith on this planet. It is the height of arrogance. But Ms. Behar wasn't finished. She then laid out her evidence. The screenwriter is a Scientologist. The production company employs Scientologists. Therefore, she concluded, I have built a cinematic arm of my church. This is where her argument moves from the misguided to the malicious. She was not just criticizing me, she was slandering an entire group of hardworking, talented artists. She was reducing their life's work, their creativity, their passion, to a religious identity. She was telling them, and the world, that their art is not their own, that it is merely a product of their beliefs. This is bigotry, pure and simple. It is no different than dismissing the work of a Jewish writer or a Catholic director because their background might influence their storytelling. He took a slow breath, his composure a stark contrast to the inflammatory nature of his words. She demanded transparency. What she really demanded was my capitulation. She wanted me to sit there and validate her prejudice. She wanted me to confess to a crime I did not commit, the crime of having a faith and being an artist. She presented herself as a brave journalist asking tough questions. But there is nothing brave about reciting a litany of debunked allegations and gossip from the darkest corners of the internet. There is nothing tough about attacking a man's deeply held spiritual beliefs from the safety of a television studio. And then, she went for the nuclear option. She invoked the most horrific, false allegations against my church, claims of harassment and exploitation, and demanded to know how I could square that circle. How could I, Tom Cruise, the apostle of hope on screen, associate with such an entity? Here, Cruise's expression shifted from one of analytical rebuttal to one of deep, personal offense. This was the moment the mask fell completely away. This was no longer about a movie or even about me. This was an attack on the millions of parishioners of my faith around the world. She was using her platform to defame and vilify an entire religion. She was casting aspersions on the lives of good, decent people based on nothing but the lies peddled by our enemies. And she did it with a smirk, believing it was her right to do so. She sat there, invoking pain, and yet she was the one inflicting it. She spoke of families, and yet she was attacking the very thing that gives millions of families strength, purpose, and community. The lack of humanity, the lack of basic decency, was staggering. He described his decision to stand up. When I stood, it was not a tantrum. It was a conscious, deliberate act of disengagement. I was not storming off, I was removing my consent. I was refusing to participate in my own public stoning. Her definition of a tough question is one that has no answer, because it is based on a false premise. It is a question designed not to elicit truth, but to inflict damage. To remain seated would have been to grant her bigotry a legitimacy it does not deserve. Cruz then addressed Behar's final, taunting question directly to the camera. She asked me, as I was leaving, if I was running away. She said, "You can't defend it, so you run." My answer, which I will give now clearly, is this: no, I was not running. I was choosing. I was choosing art over gossip. I was choosing hope over cynicism. I was choosing to build people up rather than tear them down. I was choosing to dedicate my energy to the audience, to the people who go to the movies to feel something, to be inspired, to escape the very kind of toxic negativity that was on display that morning. He spoke with a passion that was now familiar, but directed with laser-like precision. My entire career has been built on a simple idea that we can be better, that we can overcome, that the human spirit is capable of extraordinary things. This is not a narrative. This is my genuine, deeply held belief. It is the fuel for every stunt I perform, every character I play, every film I produce. Joy Behar looks at that and sees a sinister plot. She looks at a message of hope and sees a secret code. What does that say about her worldview? She and her allies in the media operate in a universe of deconstruction. Their purpose is not to understand but to dismantle. Not to illuminate but to accuse. Not to build but to destroy. They believe that by tearing down icons, by exposing so-called hypocrisy, they are performing a public service. But what they are really doing is creating a cultural desert, a landscape barren of wonder where nothing is sacred and every noble impulse is suspect. I reject that universe. I always have. I make movies for the other universe, the one where people still believe in heroes, where a story can change a life, where going to the cinema on a Saturday night is a sacred experience. I will not apologize for that. I will never apologize for that. He then made a broader point, moving beyond the personal confrontation. This is not just about me or about Joy Behar. This is about a sickness in our public discourse. It's the idea that any belief system that falls outside a very narrow, approved spectrum is open season for ridicule and attack. It is the weaponization of questions to bully and intimidate. It is the erosion of the simple, fundamental right to believe what you believe without being publicly defamed on national television. We have lost the ability to disagree with respect. We have lost the understanding that a person's faith is their own. We have created a culture where the mob, armed with cameras and social media accounts, feels entitled to demand a confession for thought crimes. What happened on The View was a microcosm of that sickness. Cruz's tone softened, becoming almost pedagogical. Let me be explicit about something. I am proud of my faith. Scientology has given me the tools to survive in a brutal industry, to overcome personal challenges, and to create a life of meaning and purpose. It has given me a community. It has made me a better father, a better artist, a better human being. I do not hide it. But I also do not believe that a talk show couch is the appropriate place for a theological debate, any more than it would be for a Catholic to be grilled on the doctrine of transubstantiation, or a Jew to be challenged on the laws of kashrut. My work and my faith are intertwined because I am intertwined. They are both expressions of my core being. But my work is not a commercial for my church. It is an expression of my artistic soul. To claim otherwise is to fundamentally misunderstand both art and faith. As the monologue drew to a close, he returned to the theme of choice. So, to everyone watching, I want to leave you with this. We all have a choice. We can choose the world of Joy Behar, a world of cynicism, of gotcha moments, of tearing down. Or we can choose another path. We can choose to believe in something. We can choose to create. We can choose to hope. I know which world I want to live in. I know which world I will continue to fight for. I walked away from that interview not in defeat, but as a statement of principle. I was drawing a line in the sand and saying, this far and no further. I will not allow my faith to be a punching bag. I will not allow my colleagues to be slandered. I will not allow the art of cinema to be reduced to a sinister conspiracy. He stood up from the stool, the camera following him. To the audience, the real audience, the one in the dark of the theater, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for believing in the magic. This incident has only strengthened my resolve to make movies for you. To deliver that experience. To take you on adventures and make you feel that anything is possible. And to those who traffic in the kind of ugliness we all witnessed, I have only this to say: your words have no power here. Your cynicism is a cage you have built for yourselves. I and millions like me have chosen to live outside of it. We have chosen wonder. The screen faded to black. The response was instantaneous and seismic. The video amassed tens of millions of views within hours. Supporters hailed it as a landmark speech, a courageous and eloquent defense of religious freedom and artistic integrity. They praised Cruz for refusing to be a victim and for reframing the debate on his own terms. Detractors called it a narcissistic rant, a masterclass in deflection that failed to address the specific allegations about Scientology's practices. They argued he had simply built a more sophisticated fortress around his beliefs. But one thing was undeniable: Tom Cruise had taken control of the narrative. He had not answered Joy Behar's questions, he had rendered them irrelevant. He had transformed the conversation from, "What is Tom Cruise hiding?" to "What are the rules of public discourse? And do we have a right to our beliefs?" Joy Behar's gotcha moment had been met with a philosophical manifesto. The unstoppable force of her skepticism had not shattered the immovable object of his belief, it had simply proven how immovable it truly was. The collision did not break Tom Cruise, it revealed the titanium core of his conviction. In the end, the man who sells dreams had not been woken up. He had simply reminded a cynical world why they need dreams in the first place.